everybody. Welcome back to The In-Between, our world of imagination where we can go anywhere as we study God's true word to us.
If you hadn't already guessed, because I'm still in my armor, we're studying the armor of God that the Apostle Paul talks about in the Bible in the book of Ephesians.
Just like this actual armor that Jeff's wearing, how that would protect a soldier in battle, Paul wanted believers to be aware of another battle taking place, one in the spiritual realm. Guys, the spiritual realm is a very real place. It's part of our world, but it's something you can't see with your eyes.
In Ephesians 6:12, the Apostle Paul wrote this: "We're fighting against the rulers and authorities and the powers of this world's darkness. We are fighting against the spiritual powers of evil in the heavenly world. That is why you need to get God's full armor. Then on the day of evil, you will be able to stand strong."
In this series of episodes, we've been learning to prepare our hearts and our minds to be ready because we have a very real enemy who's trying to deceive us, to lie to us and turn our hearts away from Jesus. And those spiritual forces of evil, they're from Satan.
The way we fight against Satan and his schemes to try to turn us away from God is to put on the full armor of God.
Jeff has been helping us visualize this by wearing actual armor, but in reality, we don't need to put on physical armor. The armor of God is something we already have as believers. The Apostle Paul used this as a word picture to help us understand how to use the tools we'll need to fight against the evil one.
So far, we've learned about the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of peace, and the shield of faith. And today we're learning about
the helmet of salvation. What? You're not the only one with access to cool costumes.
Fair enough.
So, the helmet of salvation. I guess I don't really need to wear this though. What do you think that Paul means by that?
Well, let's find out by picking up where we left off in Ephesians 6. Verses 14 through 17 say this: "Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation."
Now, why does Paul call it a helmet of salvation?
Yeah, sometimes word pictures, they can be tricky. We've already talked about how important wearing a breastplate into battle will be, right? What does the breastplate protect?
Well, your heart and all your internal organs, and the helmet, I guess, would protect your head, your brain, right? Guys, I'm sure you know that brains are pretty important. They're probably your most important organ.
Yeah, the brain is the control center for your entire body. It was imperative that a soldier protect his head to protect his brain. One blow to the head could be fatal.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Now remember, this armor is given to us as believers. So if you're a follower of Jesus, that means you've already been saved. His sacrifice on the cross means salvation for you.
Right. It means that when we die, we will get to spend eternity with Jesus in the new heavens and the new earth.
Exactly. Salvation means that you've been rescued from death by Jesus. So if you think about salvation as a helmet, it means that your head is protected. In fact, your whole being is protected because of this salvation.
Okay, I see now. We can think about our salvation in Jesus as our protection. The same way a helmet would protect our brains, our control center, our salvation means we are protected for all eternity.
Yes, exactly. So knowing that no matter what happens to us, and no matter what the enemy throws at us, if we remember that we're saved, it changes our entire perspective. Salvation in Jesus changes our priorities, and it changes the way that we live.
I can think of a great example of this in the Bible. The Apostle Paul, who wrote the letter to the Ephesians and taught believers about the armor of God that we're studying, he wasn't always a passionate follower of Christ. He had an encounter with Jesus that completely changed him. Let's watch this video about what happened to Paul when he was saved by Jesus.
The miracle of mercy. Paul. This is Saul. Saul was a Pharisee who hated the followers of Jesus so much that he would hunt them down to be brought to trial in Jerusalem. And he would even seek to murder them. Saul was uttering threats with every breath, and he was eager to kill the Lord's followers. So he went to the high priest. He asked him to write a letter to the Jews in Damascus that would allow him to arrest any Christians he found there. He wanted to bring them, both men and women, back to Jerusalem in chains. Now Saul went on his way, and as he came near Damascus, a light from heaven flashed around him, and he heard a voice that said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Saul cried out, "Who are you, Lord?" And the voice said, "I am Jesus. Rise and go into the city, and you will be told what to do." So Saul got up and he opened his eyes, but he couldn't see anything. So the men who were with Saul led him into the city. After 3 days, a man named Ananias came to Saul. He put his hands on Saul, and immediately Saul could see again. And with that, Saul became a follower of Jesus. He became the very thing he had tried to hunt. And he immediately began telling people that Jesus is the Son of God, and he taught them about the mercy of God that he had received. And all who heard him were amazed. He then went by a new name, Paul, as he began preaching not just to the Jewish people, but to everyone. Despite many difficulties like being imprisoned, shipwrecked, and narrowly escaping death multiple times, Paul continued to preach about Jesus. Paul said that he would do everything he could to save people and help them know God. And that's just what he did in order to reach people who would otherwise be unreached. And many came to know Jesus because of what Paul said. Paul taught many in his day through his letters, but even more have come to learn more about Jesus through the letters of Paul that can be read even to this day.
Paul's story is a great example for us to see how dramatically our lives change when we begin to follow Jesus.
That's right. I mean, Paul's life was completely changed. When we become followers of Jesus, it changes the way we think about things, how we treat people, and what we care about.
That's a big part of what it means to be saved. This is a really big concept, so stay with me, guys. When we accept Jesus as our Savior, we get to put on His righteousness, meaning we're able to approach God the Father, and instead of God seeing our sin, the very thing that would separate us from Him, He sees His Son in us. That's because we are justified by what Jesus did. And this one-time event begins the process of sanctification. That's what happened to Paul throughout his life.
Whoa. Okay, justification, sanctification. Jeff, I'm not sure that the kids watching, they might not understand what that is.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe not right now, but I bet if we go ask the experts, Professors Barry Bimble and Zelly Whistle, they'll be able to break down this big idea. Guys, let's go.
Oh, now where is the camera on? Oh, found it, yes,
Are you
brother.
filming
Yes,
now?
yes, I am. Yes,
Is the
it's-
camera in there?
It appears to be. Yeah, it's right.
Should I turn it on?
It's on. It's on.
Okay,
Okay. So
delightful.
my understanding is that I'm going to film whatever I like, and then we'll have our first video. We can upload it, whatever that means, to the YouTube, and that'll be jolly good. Bob's your uncle.
All right, gorgeous. Now, should we begin?
Yes, anytime.
Welcome, pupils, to our very first YouTube video.
Hi, professors. Oh, goodness. Okay, I didn't mean to scare you yet. Again, this keeps happening. Sorry.
Announce your arrival, Jeffrey.
Oh, you startled me, young man. I don't think the old ticker can take many more of these interruptions.
Oh, I believe we've just about uncovered the mysteries of YouTube, and we were attempting to make our very first video.
Wow, that's really cool, guys. That's great for you. Sorry to interrupt you again, but we had a question that I'm just not sure that we can do on our own that I think you two will be able to help us explain.
Yeah, so today we're learning about the helmet of salvation, and I wondered if you could help us understand how salvation protects us like a helmet.
Oh, yes, the topic of salvation. Very deep stuff, very deep indeed.
Well, it helps to understand salvation in two parts. It is first a one-time event and at the same time an ongoing process. When you are saved, meaning when you accept Jesus as Lord and follow him as your King, you are justified. That means you are made right before God. Your sins are forgiven.
The ongoing part is what we call sanctification, which we've talked about before. This process is the part of your salvation that takes the rest of your life. Through your relationship with Jesus over your lifetime, you will become more like him.
Exactly. The saved person has not just been rescued from the punishment that their sin deserves, but they are being restored to the person that God intends them to be. Who they are and the things that they want will even change.
Well, can you help the kids understand how salvation is like a helmet?
Yeah, but of course. Now, your salvation is the very thing that protects you, which shields you from the lies and schemes of the devil.
Remember, the devil is the father of lies. He is going to try to trick you into believing his lies and not trust the truth that you know.
Now, your salvation is what gives you victory forever against these attacks.
Oh, that's really great. Thank you so much, professors. Guys, I hope that helped you understand justification and sanctification.
You two better go and back to wherever it is you came from. Professor Barry Bimble and I were in the middle of filming our very first YouTube video.
Quite right.
Okay, sure, yeah, no problem. Thanks for your help.
Oh boy, that frightens me every single time. All right, now, Zelly Whistle, where were we? Oh yes, you're recording.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Here we go.
Hello, pupils. We are so glad that you're joining us here today.
Guys, we are learning so much about the armor that God has given us.
Yeah, that's right, Claire. I hope you're encouraged to see how our salvation in Jesus gives us two things. Now, one, protection that we need to defend ourselves against the schemes of the enemy. And two, the confidence that we'll spend eternity with Jesus.
Preparing our mind for battle, that can sound scary, but one thing that's important for us to remember is that God is sovereign. That means he is in control of all things including the battles taking place in the heavenly or spiritual world.
Exactly. He's given us this armor to fight the battles that will come our way. If we're going to be able to stand against the enemy and his schemes, we must stand firm with the understanding of our salvation fitted like a protective helmet on our heads.
Remember, Satan, who is the father of lies, will try to trick us and deceive us, but we'll be ready because we have the armor of God and we'll know how to use it.
The armor God has given us are weapons or tools for a specific use.
But what happens if you have the right tool, but use it the wrong way? Let's find out.
Has this ever happened to you? You're all dressed and ready to go on a bike ride, but you're not sure what to put on your head. What do you wear? There are just too many options. Well, not anymore. Thanks to the app Option Eliminator 3000, eliminating options has never been easier. Simply open the app and let your phone do the thinking for you. Looks like the Option Eliminator 3000 has selected the perfect item for Jeff to wear on his bike ride. Thanks, Option Eliminator 3000. You really know your stuff.
Well, it looks like Barry Bimble. It says here if we want our viewers to continue to receive videos from us, we should tell them to like by giving it a thumbs up.
And to subscribe?
Thumbs up.
Subscribe. They should subscribe if they like
Thumbs
the video.
up and subscribe. Now, what about this little bell icon?
I don't have a bell with me. Do they have bells?
Does the bell come with the computer?
Oh, maybe the bell is inside the computer.
They ring the bell inside the computer. They know when we have a new video.
So like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
Brilliant! brilliant.
Gorgeous.
Cheerio.